So I want to introduce our host tonight, Pablo Ayala. She's one of the leading PR experts here in South Florida. She's helped a lot of startups down here and big companies launch products themselves. She's one of the co-founders of P-Funk Media, who does all the media outreach for Refresh Miami and a lot of the local startups. They've gotten placement in things like TechCrunch, NextWeb, Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and many other locations, or publications rather. So she's helped startups launch like Lab Ninja, Senzari, The Lab, Epicurator, Sime MIA, Switch Pitch, and Duolingo in Latin America. So without further ado, Pablo.
We're gonna introduce.
Hi.
We're gonna introduce everybody first, and then put the seats out because it covers.
Oh, okay. You want to? Yeah. All right. So our first panelist is Sari Hazout, a co-founder of Bib and Tuck, an online portal for users to sell your clothes and shop. A curated collection of Bib and Tuck. Who wrote these? Populated by more than 1,000 hand-picked stylists, fashion bloggers, and designers, Bib and Tuck has been featured in Fast Company, Vogue, TechCrunch, New York Magazine, Refinery, Elle, Bullet, and Marie Claire. So sorry if you're around here.
We'll ask him up later.
All right, so we'll bring up the chairs in a second. So next up, sorry. Let's give all of them a round of applause when we bring them up in 2 seconds. So next up is Don Dixon, the creator of the innovative Flat-Out Rollable Flat Solutions Vending International. The Flat-Out Rollable Shoe Vending Machine. She launched these two companies in April 2011 after identifying a need to create a product to provide women with convenient relief after hours of wearing high heels, and recently partnered with Lauren Rittinger, who signed on to design a licensed collection in 2014. Flat-Outs are sold online in over 40 retail locations internationally and in vending machines in Atlanta Airport and Live nightclub in Miami.
Thanks for the commercial.
You're welcome. So, next up. Igal Asiman, Global Head of Sales and Marketing for Park Jockey. Igal previously worked as management consultant at McKinsey and brand director at AstraZeneca before joining Park Jockey. He also co-founded Turkey's largest medical website, and I can't pronounce that, and assumed the role of Chief Strategy Officer at said startup, medical office. Under his leadership, the medical information appointment booking platform grew to having over 15 million unique yearly visitors looking for solutions for their medical problems and booking appointments. And then next up we have David Sinopoli, music director at Bardot, Miami. He's managed to find a balance between the business side of music and his passion for music. David founded and launched in 2013 the 3 Points Festival, a music, art, and technology festival based out of the Wynwood Arts District. Sinopoli also founded Space Tapes, a Miami-based record label that is currently acting as a platform for Miami artists looking to push the limits and perceptions of the industry in a city notorious for a lack of culture. And if David is in the room, please come up to the stage. And so, without further ado, let's bring up the panelists on the stage.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. As Brian mentioned, I am one half of Funk Media, that's spelled P-Funk Media. We are here today to talk about launching a startup and all the challenges that go along with it, whether expected or unexpected, and hopefully our lovely panel of guests here will give you insight into some do's and don'ts and how to prepare if you're thinking of launching your startup. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first question up, and I'm sure that you guys heard in all of the intros, but these are all entrepreneurs that have launched or had a hand in launching a business prior to this. So they have the experience and the I'm sure, scars of launching their own startup. So the first question that we're going to ask the panelists are, what challenge did you face when launching your product that you perhaps didn't expect? And I mean, that's like an entire gamut, right? But sorry, let's start with you. In launching Bib and Tuck, what was, the most unexpected surprise that came along with the launch?
Yeah, I mean, so many challenges, but for me, I would say, you spent so much time building this startup that means everything to you, and you launch it, and nobody really cares. So, I got all my friends on a distribution list. I, spent all this time saying, do we launch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Google what the best time to launch. Send out an email to like 200 friends, and like nothing happens. So, you sort of come to terms with it over, coming weeks and start emailing people, and things begin to happen. But that mentality that if you build it, they will come, is only really true if you get really lucky. Figuring out how to get customers to land on your site is half the battle, and depending on the nature of your startup, in my case, I have a marketplace, so we definitely benefit from network effects, and we have a chicken and egg problem, so we really needed to figure out how to bring both buyers and sellers to the platform, and it took a while, and the liquidity's there now, but nobody cared at the beginning, and people care now. So the first 1,000 people are the hardest to get on board.
And I'm sure, for all of those who aren't familiar with Bib and Tuck, which is Sari's company, it's an online platform where, take it over from there. You're better at explaining it than I am.
Yeah, sure. So the problem in my head before starting the company was buying is incredibly easy. One click and, within a day, Amazon Prime, you have everything at home, but selling really sucks. And that really contributes to having billions of dollars worth of stuff in our closets. I mean, billions of dollars worth of all kinds of stuff, but the problem I wanted to tackle was clothes. And so, I decided, along with my best childhood friend and co-founder, to build a community where people could refresh their closets without spending money by posting pieces they no longer wear and then selling them and using their proceeds to fund their next find. And the bigger vision is really micro-logistics, which is this idea that with a little bit of help, our closets can become tiny distribution centers.
So, Sari is, one of many, many, many startups, and I'm sure all of you out there are wondering on, like Sari said, it was very difficult for her to get the word out and for people to actually come to the website and convert users. So, listen up, and if you guys have any questions afterwards for Sari, on how she guys tackle that, we'll talk about that a little bit later on here, but feel free to approach her because she is an excellent study of how she managed to do that on a pretty low budget. So Dawn, what about you? What launch challenges did you come across?
It's really interesting because my challenge was kind of the opposite of hers as to I think I just jumped the gun on telling everybody about the business that it was coming, and the challenge was for me to get the product out before they're like, okay, you're lying, you're not coming out with this. You said this like 3 months ago, where's the shoe at? So I had a pretty large following from doing events for 10 years, so I had already several thousand people that followed me. So I'm like, hey, I'm about to start a company called Flight Out of Heels, and we're gonna have shoes for when you leave the club, your feet won't hurt anymore. And they're like, yay! Okay, where are they at? Like, that was 3 months ago. Like, are you gonna come out with the shoe? So I think for me, the challenge was just, it goes back to what we're talking about soon knowing when to launch. And also, I thought it was gonna be so easy for me to just come up with a shoe and just get it made and bring it over here. Like, you can just mail things from China to your house and they're made and they're perfect. So I didn't give myself really enough time to develop the product, so I just launched it initially before I should have launched it.
And actually, that's a problem a lot of startups don't anticipate, is they have a great idea and they're so eager to get their product out there, but they don't actually take into account all of the preparation and all of the work that goes into launching a product. And, we've all experienced the pain. If you launch or if you're talking about it too soon, or if, I know a lot of startups are really eager about their idea and immediately they start contacting members of the press and there's some media attention behind it, and then the press is like, okay, where is it at? And then if you don't have anything to show them or follow up with anything tangible relatively soon, that interest completely dies out and they don't see you as a credible source of information anymore. So it makes it that much more challenging in order to get your word out about your startup. So that's an excellent point that you brought up, Don. Igal, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so our experience was similar to Sari's. So when we launched, when you spend so much time with your product, you just assume that you've perfected your business model, you understand everything, and when you go out there, everybody will understand it as well, just because you've been immersed in it. But the world doesn't operate that way, obviously. So in our business, we also operate on a marketplace. We have the parking operators as well as the drivers, and we thought that all the work would be with drivers, because that's the consumer that's who pays. So we have to do sales and marketing and convince them. But the operators should jump on board right away. I mean, why not use this? This is like extra revenue. But the fact is that people don't necessarily right away get it, or even if they get it, the logic gets you only that far. They're like, explain it to me again, why should I be with you? So we learn now, or we are learning rather, to come up with more emotional appeals, trying to explain it more from an empathetic point of view rather than just numbers and data and logic. And that, I think, was a big learning from our launch.
So it's perhaps bringing a more human aspect, connecting more real-life experiences as to why they should adopt your technology?
Yeah, absolutely, and having a multifaceted approach, I think. Don't be like, this is it. We just solved the problem. 2 plus 2 is equal 4. Everybody's gonna get it. It doesn't work that. Everybody has a different approach. So that means that you need to budget in more time and resources to try to convince people, even if you have a good product.
So just a quick survey out there. How many people are working on a startup that they are looking to launch relatively soon? Okay, and how many people here have committed any one of these errors that we've just talked about? All right, well, hopefully we're shedding a little light and giving you some insight on, how to correct these issues or how to better avoid them. So everybody knows that launching a product is extremely difficult. What tips do you guys have, or perhaps have used, to getting pre-launch buzz?
I can start, because I guess that's how I started, was the pre-launch, pre-launch buzz. But I think definitely social media, and that has been the #1 source of spreading the word for me. But again, maybe it goes back that I had a following before, but even if you don't already have a following and you're about to launch, going out there and connecting with your customers in advance and letting, seeing what they're talking about, and following them, getting them to follow you back so that they're paying attention to what you're doing. That way, you can build the buzz and start to talk about what you're doing, even if you're not talking about your product directly. Like, for instance, I have Flat Out Feels for when your feet hurt. So if I would have been thinking, instead of just telling about the shoes, I would have talked about how, high heel related injuries, or how, all the different things that I know about the business. How many women, the average woman can last 3 hours in heels. How many can you last in heels? Just asking my followers, just engaging with them. Or, how many times have you walked out the club and your feet hurt? Just talking to them about the business before I actually tease it, to build a buzz and get them to say, hey, we need this. And then they'll end up telling you they need your business. And then you say, hey, here it is. This is what you need. So I think social media is a great way to engage with people. That's been the way that I've been able to grow my business from the beginning.
I would say, it's pretty well known that people usually need at least 6 or 7 touch points to engage with your brand. So whether it's meeting you at some sort of event, seeing a Facebook ad, having a friend mention it, seeing a press article, it really is not sort of I read an article on TechCrunch, I'm going to go and buy a product on your site. So it takes a while. So it actually surprises me how many startup founders have an idea and they're like, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody. You're wasting an opportunity to get feedback, you're wasting an opportunity to share your idea with somebody, and I think it's the stupidest thing someone can do is not talk about their idea, because the idea is worthless without the execution.
They think they're going to steal it, but it's like...
yeah, nobody's gonna steal your idea, and at the end of the day, like, there's more half-written novels in the world than there are novels, and that's because, it's much harder to execute than it is to come up with an idea. So I don't think being worried about someone stealing an idea is a problem. There were thousands of social networks before Facebook, they just did something that others didn't. So I would say, start building buzz at the second that you come up with your idea, whether it's by talking to people, talking to friends. I mean, social media, like Dawn mentioned, is key. We had a blog way before we launched the company, and that definitely drove traffic. Make sure you have a launch page where you're gathering emails. Email marketing is incredibly effective. So, we gathered at least...
Sorry has an awesome newsletter, by the way. I get it every week.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely put a lot of effort into that. We have a pretty high conversion rate from email. So yeah, spend some time collecting emails. Spend some time, one of the advantages of it taking so long to sort of build and be able to launch a product is that you have time to build the right relationship. So, I built the right relationship such that when we were ready for launch, I could reach out to someone in the space and be like, hey, we've launched, should we do an email swap? What are other ways we can think about partnering with each other? Building relationships with bloggers in the space. So take advantage of that time before launch to really sort of build the right relationships, I would say.
Yigal, having gone through a launch recently with Park Jockey, I'm sure you've got a lot to say about this.
Yeah, we keep launching again and again different cities, so each time it's a new launch. So Miami was actually the first launch, so we're based here. So everything that's been said so far. Plus, I think finding a good ally or a few allies, and social media is what we use as well, especially because as a startup, you're bootstrap, you cannot just hire like PR companies and go out there and start getting many articles talk about you. So so think of what's the pain point that you're addressing with your product, and then who would care about that? Like there are a bunch of influencers for any product in the world who have written on social media or on their blog or somewhere that they are upset that X doesn't exist or it's done in this way in the world but should be done that way. So what we did was, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but trying to reach out to those people via email, social media, and so on, and tell them, this is what we have, this is what we're going to come up with. It's not perfect, but we want your feedback, we want you to talk about it, that will really help us. And because by definition we are the people who talked about it in the past, it usually works. So that's the main advice I think I would give to the startup community.
And I know that I'm the moderator, but I want to jump in on a couple of points that they talked about that I think are really important. Is the prep work that goes into it. Number one, like Dawn and Sari said, email marketing and social media are incredibly important. So if you're on social media, the very first thing that you should think about, when preparing for your launch, and I would do this, as far ahead as possible, is get all of your branding unified on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Make sure that it's all the same. If it's Bib and Tuck, it should be Bib and Tuck uniformly, or P-Funk Media, it should be uniform everywhere so people can find you no matter what social media that they're using. And then find influencers that are talking about your industry and what pertains to your business in particular. Start collecting that type of data. Keep your stuff very organized, either in an Excel sheet or in a database management system, or create lists on Twitter. That's like my favorite tool on Twitter, is creating lists. So that when you are ready to talk about your product, you have a list on Twitter that is like fashion bloggers. And then you have a list that's like fashion writers. And then you have a list that are fashion influencers that perhaps are on a different level. And you're going to want to talk to them and curate your pitch particularly to each and every single one of those groups. You're not going to want to blast, everything out there all at once. And it's very important to keep yourself organized in that sense. But if you're going to reach out to press, like Dawn said, you better have something ready.
I also have one more thing. There's a website called Clout. It's also an app. And I actually like Clout because it helped me because of course I have Flat Out Appeals, then I have myself. And, somehow, because I'm the founder, I'm very much closely related to the business, and they look at me. So it's important for even my personal social media to be of the brand, and also to mirror that. So for instance, with Clout, you become an expert, or you talk about topics that relate to, your Clout score is based on how relevant your material is on your subject matter. So for me, I said, okay, I want to be someone that's known to talk about startups, raising money, entrepreneurship. So I've got my Clout score up really, really high because I talk about, in between regular little tweaks here and there that go along with the brand, but I talk about those topics and I become a go-to person or expert on those topics. And that lets me get more followers and people engage more with me because they look to me as a resource. And that can also help you as well with their business because, again, a lot of times people support Flat Out because of me. And they're going to a lot of times support your business because of you. So it has to really align who you are along with your brand and your personal brand. That way it can help you to get more supporters as well.
You're absolutely right. So now that we've talked about, some of the tips and stuff, what tools do you guys use in your day-to-day business that you find absolutely invaluable, like that have helped you, like Dawn passes the mic. But if that's, MailChimp for, I know Sorry has an awesome newsletter, maybe you could answer, what some of those tools are?
Like the basic stuff, Google Docs, we use MailChimp. It depends on, obviously, the nature of your business, but anything that's payment gateways, we use Mixpanel for analytics, there's also Kissmetrics, we started doing paid media recently, so AdRoll is really effective. We use Quaya to manage all sorts of, Facebook engagement. All the analytics platforms, there's like dozens out there, but figure out what you want to do. There's Optimizely, there's, you should be doing A/B testing on, a number of the things that you're testing on your platform. I guess, those are sort of technical tools, but I think for us, just making sure that we're very organized in terms of outreach is key. We use something called HighRise to track our outreach to influencers, our outreach to potential power sellers on the platform. So, making sure that at any given point in time, especially if there is turnover on the team, anyone can pick up on past conversations and where everyone stands. So that's been really effective. And then, I live and swear by Pivotal Tracker for any sort of project management related tasks.
I'll add one more. We use a project management tool called Asana. There are a few others as well, like Basecamp and so on. We found it very helpful, especially because we're a geographically dispersed team. So for any startup that's thinking of jumping from one place to another, especially if you're across different time zones, email becomes a huge problem. For us, it was unmanageable. Like everybody getting 1,000 emails a day. And in the end, we said we have to change something. We decided to use a project management software and get everybody aligned there under each project, and then there are tasks, and within tasks there are discussions. So it's little OCD, but that's the only way to manage it if you are a team that's literally around the world. Like we have a team in India, we have a team in Turkey, we have a team in the UK, and within US we're in different cities. So once you reach that stage, you'll realize that these are invaluable tools. And if it costs $10 or $20 a month, don't even think about it. Sometimes people say, is it really worth it? Should we try it first? Just go for it. It's very, very helpful.
So I think that's kind of like a common theme in startups is making sure that you guys and your entire team is really communicating very clearly. Whether that's keeping your workflow in an organized place where everybody has access to it, or like Sari said, if somebody from your team leaves, or if you have an intern working for you, you kind of have to be able to track what kind of interactions you're making with your clients, with your vendors, with your influencers or whatever. So it's really important that you guys communicate very, very effectively. There are tons of tools. There's Asana, there's Trello, there's everything under the sun. So there's something for everybody out there. Of all of the places you go out, you got the word out, what had the best results? And how did you quantify these results?
Well, I'll just again, I'll say again with social media, but the platform that was easier, surprisingly everybody would think it's Facebook, but for my demographic it was Instagram. Instagram is amazing. I mean, when I started using Instagram about maybe a year ago for Flat Out of Heels, you can basically, for me, we got it down to a science for about 5% conversion based on our followers. So right now we have about 17,000 followers. So we know that if we post a coupon, about how many sales that we're going to get in response to that coupon, or if we post a contest or something like that. So people are very, very visual. Facebook, you know, we'll do the ads and it'll say, you know, 50,000 people have been reached, but I'm like, okay, but I have like 10 more likes. So I just don't get it. And I never know where it comes from, you know, but Instagram and things like Pinterest where people are very visual, but I have, again, a product that people purchase and it's very visual. So we may be different because we have very different businesses, but for me, with the product that people are wearing, images of, you know, I know certain images that are going to get a better feedback. So it's just, for me, it's definitely been social media that has continued to be the driving force behind the business. I've paid for ads. Nothing has been as effective, aside from SEO, for me, other than, you know, visual social media.
Yeah, I mean, social media is helpful, but I think, you know, it really depends on the product. Like with us, for instance, we really couldn't crack Instagram. Like, I personally don't get the point of Instagram in the first place. It's a bunch of pictures that people look at, like with Twitter, there's, you know, dialogue, you get, you know, news, you interact. With Facebook, it's your friends, and, you know, there's Instagram. But maybe it's a visual. So, I mean, because we talked about so much, because we know there are products that are really making use of it in a way that's productive. Like, we get few hearts, and that's so far what we've got.
Well, it's kind of hard to make parking spots like sexy on Instagram, right?
We tried so hard. I'm sure there's a way to do it right, but I think you really have to think about your product first and who will be the right person. Is it something that's related more to the dialogue? You want to use it more for customer service? For instance, we use Twitter. We get some people complaining about their situation, or, you know, thanking us, or whatever it may be. Either way, we believe it's a helpful channel because it allows communication. Facebook, similarly, we tried with you know, lukewarm success. I guess what we found the most helpful, I think, is affiliates, basically third-party brands. So not social media, but people who we work with, who we made some sort of a deal, a commercial deal with them, and then they talk about us to their customers, employees, friends and family, whatever it is, and depending on their size. I think we had the best return so far from that channel, and it may be the right channel for many other products as well.
I'm going to touch on Instagram really quickly.
Yeah.
It may be helpful. So, you know, the people on Instagram, they don't want to see pictures of products all day. They don't want to see ads. They want something to make them laugh or that they can relate to. So with my business, I put my shoes here and there, or they'll be on a celebrity, but a lot of times I'll post like women walking barefoot, and they'll be like violation, or, you know, things like that, or things that make people laugh, and they'll tag their friends, or I'll say, tag one of your friends who's walked barefoot, or just engaging them. Like, for your business, you know, if it was me, I don't know exactly what your business is, but it helps people get parking, know where to park. So I would say, you know, post pictures of people that are parked illegally, or just things that'll get people to get engaged, and that's how you drive it through. You don't want to just say, here's you buying a ticket from us. No, like, they don't want to see that. So whatever you're selling, the way to be successful on Instagram is if you have something that's not like a product that's tangible. Even with her, she could say, you know, post like the worst closets that are a mess that need to call Penn and Tucker, you know, and then like send your closet, the worst closet you've ever seen, and you know, the winner of this will get some credits. Like, that's how you engage people. You have to think outside the box when it comes to Instagram. But they like to see things, they like to tag people, they like to make fun of people. So, you know, I play on that. Obviously, 17,000 people like to see barefoot ladies walking out of the club. So, you know, it's working. But, you know, any way you can be creative, they like.
All right, so any of you out there who are looking, you have a tangible product, see Dawn. She will give you an entire strategy on how to tackle Instagram. Sorry, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a role for social media for any sort of company. It really comes down to creativity. We haven't really found the right way to track how much, you know, an increase in Instagram followings actually leads to increased engagement on the site. But for us, it's really easy to track press, because we have a sign-up source for any sort of, you know, coverage that we get. And what's been really interesting for us is to distinguish what's a good press outlet versus a bad one. So, probably for most people out here that are trying to launch their first business, you really aspired to be covered on TechCrunch. I did too, but the reality is that did nothing for my business. That's not where my customers are. My customers are reading Refinery29. So the day that we were covered by Refinery29, we got 2,500 signups. We got maybe 400, 500 signups from TechCrunch, and they were pretty much, marketing professionals were trying to pitch us some sort of business. Like the number of people who are in the sort of advertising or retargeting space, and the number of emails I got the day after we were featured on TechCrunch just to pitch me business, it's good to be pitched business, but we weren't at the stage where we were going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on partnering up with these people, whereas immediately after we were covered by Refinery, which is where our customers are, we saw an increase in transactions and engagement across the platform. So figure out where your customers are and make sure that you're targeting those publications, because as much as you want to be on TechCrunch, that may not be the right place to get covered, especially when you're just looking for customers. It definitely helps with validation, but not necessarily with customers.
How did you get in Refinery? I just want to know so that they can know too, because that's,
Yeah.
how did you get to that?
Yeah, we've been lucky with press. We experimented with a PR agency and it didn't really work for us. So my partner and I just sort of pitched this story. We, from the beginning, we never emailed editors saying like, hey, can you cover us? It was more like, hi, this is us, we've been friends forever, this is our story. We'd love for you to check out our product. Here's a code to sign up and you can get 50% off your first purchase. We weren't asking them to cover us. It was very sort of nice and friendly, and I think that not being super aggressive helped get on their good side. And then I guess slowly we just developed relationships. But I had none of these relationships. We started from scratch, and we've really been very lucky with press. So I think the way that you learn to approach these editors who get pitched like day in and day out is really important.
And I think that that's an excellent point is, to get covered in TechCrunch, it's great, especially if you're very tech-centric and tech-focused, a tech-focused business, it's great to get these early adopters to know about your product. But if you're not so tech-centric, if you're like an online platform, like Bib and Tuck, a different lifestyle publication may be more suitable for you. And you kind of have to identify your needs, right? Are you looking for investor interest? If you're looking for investor interest, investors read TechCrunch. If you're looking for, consumer interest to go onto your website, it may be a different publication for you. And you just have to kind of figure out where your priorities lie and how you should tackle that. All right, let's see here. Did you read any specific blogs or journals or books before doing your launch? Are there any lean startup readers?
Yeah.
That's a typical answer, right?
I read everything. I mean, to be honest, I was, the girl who, when the product wasn't ready, would spend, I would spend so much time on Quora, Mashable, TechCrunch, PSFK. I love Seth Godin's blog, Gary Vaynerchuk's blog. I would read absolutely everything, and it's really nice that we live in a day, in a time where pretty much anything, you can find pretty much anything on Google, which is great, but I definitely would caution you against, reading so much online and sort of having that dictate your process, because the reality is there is no formula for success. Some people think, raising a lot of capital is a way to get started. Some people there's all sorts of opinions out there. And while it's good to read them and be aware of them, I think it's more important to sort of trust your judgment and intuition. And on an unrelated but somewhat related note, it's the same with your competitors. I mean, everyone's got competitors, but it becomes sort of a normal thing to sort of check out what everyone's doing, but it's not necessarily a good thing, because it really, I think, can lead to less creativity when you're just trying to catch up to what other people are doing instead of sort of, trying to find the right way for you to do things. And I think if you have the guts to sort of be an entrepreneur and build your own thing, you can be creative enough to sort of carve your own path. So I read a lot of stuff, but I've sort of learned to figure out what makes sense for me to sort of digest and incorporate into the business somehow, and what doesn't.
Dawn, have anything to add?
Yeah, I read a lot of books, and I did, I get all these emails and things, but I feel like she said, it's about following your heart. So I think the books that helped me the most were books that prepared me mentally and spiritually for just the journey of being an entrepreneur and what you have to deal with in your life, how it changes. And one book that really I read all the time is called The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. And that's an amazing book because I feel like it just helps your mind get for life. Like, so many things happen as an entrepreneur and your life changes, and things as are different. So it's just being prepared mentally. And then one of the books that stands out immediately is Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. Just a great book. Just a great book for entrepreneurs to read. It definitely is good as a founder when you think about, setting up your core values and what your business is going to be about. And once you have your core values and your mission statement in place, because I thought about that later. I read Delivering Happiness a couple years into my business. But I know that if I would have read it first or had that mindset of, okay, what are your core values and what is your mission before I did anything else, it would have really helped to shape the way that I handled my business and the people that I work with and things that I did, so that I could make better decisions knowing that the foundation, what is the core, what is this really about. So that will help you to really think about where you want your business to go and how you're going to treat people and approach people. But those two books really stand out for me. And The Four Agreements, I recommend everybody read it. It's about this thick, but I feel like it's a life-changing book for sure.
Well, I'll be the devil's advocate. I actually don't read books on certainly for entrepreneurship currently. So because for me it's a time trade-off. You just have so much on your plate, and there's so much more that you can do at all times, and that you won't get to do ever. That to me, I'd rather spend that time trying to do things than reading books. But then I did a 2-year MBA right before becoming an entrepreneur, so I spent 2 years literally reading books, academic books about law. So it depends on the person maybe. So I feel like I got a little bit of an academic framework at the back of my head, and now I'll just need to create things and put it into use. That being said, I think everybody in our company does follow some of the blogs that talk about what's going on in the space, so in the ecosystem in general. So it's not like big books, but literally day-to-day articles about, Google just announced this, Facebook is doing that, and then smaller competitors or potential competitors or companies that we could one day merge with, and so on. So it's a little bit more about awareness in our company at least than actually reading books, but yeah, so I see both sides though. I mean, there's definitely value in reading books and learning about frameworks and what other people did that worked. But you should remember that it's a time trade-off. If you spend a lot of time reading books, I think you should question yourself whether it's the best use of your time.
One more thing. She said best use of your time. I'm sorry. One more thing is that no matter what you're doing, you should of course know your competitor. And what I do is I have anyone that I can think does anything like me on a Google alert. So anytime that they're mentioned online for any reason, I get an email. That way I'm really on top of them, because sometimes they'll creep in on like a publication I never heard of, so I won't know what they're doing. But if it comes to Google, I always know what they're doing at all times. And that's so important, because if you do not read nothing else, at least read about what people are doing in your space. Like, keep up on that all the time.
So that brings us to our next question. She jumped the gun on there. How did you identify who to reach out to? And that's like one of the tools is, you said Google Alerts. As a PR professional, it's my job to stay on top of the news and make sure that I know what's being said about my clients and their competitors. So, I have like this piece of crap, Owly RSS, but it does the job. Are there any specific, tools or how do you guys identify who to reach out to?
Yeah, actually before I launched, I think, when people say that entrepreneurship is glorified, I think they mean like, you do a lot of unsexy things, and one of those unsexy things I did was for like a month before launch, I literally focused on professionally like stalking people across like places to develop a more than 3,000 person list of just like names and emails, and I would just have a category like blogger, editor, just customer, and I would find these people like everywhere. I would search sometimes on Instagram with hashtags, Twitter with hashtags. I mean, I would like random stuff. I would search like hashtag vintage clothing, hashtag like sell my clothes, hashtag like anything really. And then I would, everything's on Google, so it's just about being resourceful. but yeah, I mean, you just gotta do that. And then I would literally one-on-one email each of these people. And actually on that Google Doc, I would have a column that says, personalized. So I would have like one little thing that I would insert to personalize it, because there's nothing like receiving an email that says, loved your post on X, or whatever. But obviously it takes a long time, so just find a way to sort of scale that process. But yeah, I mean, if you're not building a huge database and spending a lot of time on that, then you're doing something wrong.
Igal, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I'd say your personal networks. So the more you talk about your company, your products with people around you, your friends, your colleagues, your like ex-colleagues, whoever it might be, your family, they get to come up with ideas to you. They say, well, did you reach out to X because he does this? And they lead to things. So sometimes it's a waste of time, but a lot of the time, you end up very grateful that you actually mentioned whatever your new idea or your product, your company, because they came up with something that was very valuable to you. So I think that's one advice I would give to everyone, because it's basically free. It just takes up a little bit of your time to not shy away from talking to all the people about all your ideas and what you want to do and who you want to reach. Sometimes you never even know. Like you think that you would have no connection to that company that might help you, but you just don't know. You talk to someone and they say, well, my cousin is married to that guy whose father is actually in that company, and you're like, wow, now I have a connection. So it's all about talking, socializing, networking, and that's pretty much the only thing actually I can think of right now.
And actually, Igal, hold on to that mic real quick, because you kind of touched in on how to reach out to your personal network. So the next question is, who are your biggest supporters, aside from friends and family, that helped you and your business launch?
No one? Well, no, like, big bucket, no, I mean, well, I mean, that's first of all true. It's, I mean, fewer people, I think that goes back to what Sari said initially, fewer people than you think actually care about it. You care about it so much because you came up with it, you're building it, I mean, you and your friends, I mean, as a small company, but the reality is that a lot of people are like, yeah, okay, you're just a new company. One people that care is your investors, if you have any. So they are helpful, and they were helpful in our case.
And they care a lot.
Yes, so we have angel investors in our company, the initial ones. And even though they are not supposed to be doing operations, because they have a vested interest, they were actually very helpful in getting, just like I talked in the last question, getting to the right people, the right companies. If they know someone, they're a good resource. And beyond that, I think friends and family, obviously they want the best for you, and again, they're willing to talk about you in Facebook and Twitter. If they're a blogger for Huffington Post, for instance, they might suggest like, let me mention you or whatever it is. I'm just making up right now, but all those sorts of small favors that I think a lot of us in the company got from our personal friends and family as well.
Did you guys have a mentor? Igal, do you have a mentor that you regularly, reach out to or bounce ideas off of?
Outside the company, or I mean within the company, obviously we all the time do that, and we are each other's mentors, so I guess so to say. Now we have an accelerator who just signed on board, but before that, so
Thesis Ventures, right?
Yes. So before our initial launch, though, we did not have any designated outside party that would be mentoring us.
Dawn, what about you?
I definitely had some really great mentors just throughout life, and then, I make it a point to when I'm trying to do something, I look and see who's doing it well and position myself to get to know that person, or in someone to know that person, because, I want to learn as much as I can. I found that my family wasn't very supportive, and my friends were semi-supportive. My family definitely wasn't. My friends were semi-supportive, but people that identify with me somehow were supportive. So people that say, she's a young woman, I want to support her. Or, oh, my feet hurt, I can relate, I want to support her and help other women's feet not hurt. Or, she's a single mom, or, whatever they can relate to. That's why I feel like, again, it's so important for people to, especially as a co-founder, a founder, let people know you a little bit, because they may support you because, you guys are from the same country, or you never know. Like my hometown, I would look at sometimes the orders, when we'll scan where our demographics are coming from. And my hometown buys so many shoes for me. It's never like any names that I know. So I'm like, where are my friends and family at on this list? But, you know, nobody in my family bought any shoes. But people from my hometown of Columbus, Ohio that don't even know me just want to see me do good because I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So, you know, that's another thing. It's like if you don't have a mentor, because I feel like everyone should have a mentor and find someone that you can talk to. And I mentor several people now, even though I am still on my journey, but anything I can give back. But just telling your story as much as you can so people can relate to you and they'll just want to see you do well. A lot of times they'll just want to see you succeed.
Yeah, we actually formally put together an advisory board early on. There were just people that I admired, that I'd been following on Twitter for a while, and we reached out, we give them a little bit of equity and they just, advise the company. I would say they help more mentally prepare you for the entrepreneurial journey than they do actually your business. At the end of the day, to really understand your business. You understand it more than anyone else does because you're doing it 24/7, so I do think it's hard to contribute as much as they sort of say they will. As far as support, there's no better supporter than your customers, your early adopters. So we realized that a couple months into launch, we were getting emails every now and then from people using our platform who just loved it and thought it was super creative. And we just found a system to evangelize those customers and figure out how that one person who loved our product could get 100 people to support our product. And that will differ depending on your product, but find a way to sort of, make that one person bring 100 people. So if it was a college student, we'd help them organize some sort of event that would bring 100 college students on board, or we would give them a unique code that would allow them to invite friends and their friends would get a discount, or we would think of creative things to do to make sure that sort of initial appreciation for the product was really funneled into growth. And I think that those initial 100 people that expressed a lot of love for what we had built were really, the people in charge of making sure that the product grew from 100 to 1,000 to 2,000 and then to 50,000 that we are now.
Right, the evangelists and the first, believers in your product are always going to be the most important people that you're always going to want to pay attention to. So once you guys were up and running, how did you keep the traffic coming, or how did you keep the momentum going?
Yeah, it's a really good question because you have to be really creative, and the reality is that you're going to get press and you're going to see your Google Analytics and your traffic is going to peak, and then a couple days later it's again coming down. So for us, it's about making sure that we're providing a lot of content. We have an editorial calendar on the company, so if we feel like we're not doing something creative, we'll recently came up with like a really funny video series where we partnered up with influencers and did one-on-one interviews that were really popular. So figuring out ways to keep people coming back. We feature, for us it is a peer-to-peer marketplace, but we feature the closets of designers, celebrities, stylists, so it's a great way to keep people coming back. But you really have to be very creative about finding ways to keep bringing people back, especially if you are in a budget. We did recently start experimenting with paid media, and it's truly amazing what it can do. I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with how targeted Facebook ads can be, but we recently experimented with Facebook lookalike audiences, where we actually exported a list of our top buyers onto Facebook, and they started targeting people just like that, and it's been phenomenal for us. So there's,
I was like, what? I need that.
So there's really great ways easy ways to buy customers if you have, if you have the capital. But for us, we were bootstrapped for a long time, and we had to just think about creative ways to bring people on a budget. And the most effective one of those was one-on-one outreach and figuring out ways to work with influencers for free. So perfecting your sales pitch, really.
Can we talk about that later? I do that. For me, it's the same because, I have, all my shoes look like this. They're the same shoe, 12 different styles. That's it. So I got to always think of a way to get them to come back for the same shoe. And, once they buy, 3 or 4 pairs, so I just keep them coming back by continuing to engage them on social media. I have several celebrities that have worn the shoes, posted about them, talk about them. We've been on TV several times, was worn by celebrities, but we come out with a new color about, you know, about twice a year we come out with about 3 different colors, and we'll rotate and see, but really it's just engaging with them constantly. You know, a lot of content, a lot of social media postings, newsletters, updating the website, trying to get as much press as possible, because really, I call them Team Flat Out. That's our official hashtag, is Team Flat Out. And, you know, Team Flat Out, they buy everything that I put out, but then once I have them all, they're waiting for the next shoe. I have to go out and get some more team members. So I have them, you know, help me recruit team members. They spot a feet rescue feet, violations, all kinds of different gimmicks to get them to tell people about them. And then think of different markets.
So you're making like your loyal brand followers
Yes.
almost work for
We
you.
do customer of the week, so they love that. They love seeing themselves on Instagram and on. So I just keep like she said, just keep my customers engaged and always doing things to bring the spotlight to them. Or I support, like if my customer, I never tell them no. Like I tell my customer service team, don't tell the customers no. Like a lady emailed us before and said, somebody robbed me and stole my purse, my flat outs are in there, can you please send me another pair? First I said, the audacity, I mean, if you have the nerve to email a company and say, somebody stole my purse, can I have another pair for free? Give her a pair for free. The fact that she even asked, I mean, I just was like, they sent an email like, Dawn, should we do this? And I said, how could you tell her no? I mean,
Did she call you before she called the credit card company?
No, somebody stole her flat outs out of her purse.
Just the flat outs?
No, the whole purse, but she's like, the flat outs were like the key thing in the purse. It was more important than the ID. It was the flat outs. So I was like, okay, send her like, 10 pairs, but then she's so grateful and she tells people about it. So it's just, doing whatever makes your customers happy. I just say
Make
whatever
them feel
they want.
special.
Yeah, make them feel amazing. And even when you talk to them, like I tell my customer service, we're people. Like when you get an email from, say you email a company about something, and you feel like you're talking to like a computer, or it's like auto-generated, I'm like, if somebody emails me with a smiley face, like, hey Dawn, we got your shoes, smiley face, or just something to make them feel like you're a real person and like you're talking to people and you care about them, they'll just keep coming back and supporting you over and over.
Yeah, so I want to echo that customer service point. So we care about that a lot too. We believe making people into your brand ambassadors is basically the only way to keep it sustained. But other than that, obviously our product is just a parking space. You at least have 12 pairs of different shoes that we sell, space that big, and the car comes in and that's it. So in order to make it more interesting over time, one after another, we try to partner with companies that have basically more interesting product. Like we recently partnered with Miami Heat and the American Airlines Arena, so we're just launching that. We'll be their official partner for the next season. So we're very excited about that, and we believe that is going to get the word out there to customers that do not exist yet for us, but we know that they are there. They have the need. They also need to park their car, and they like the convenience of buying it beforehand without paying any extra money. Having someone basically reserve their spot for them before they come to the event, be it a basketball game or something else. But we being a startup on our own, it's not that easy to get that message across. And again, we don't have a product that's very sexy, so that we just post a picture and then everybody, it goes viral. So the way is for us, is at least the affiliates and people who do this right, and then we try to affiliate with them, and then we go together, whatever the terms of the partnership are. So that's for me.
So quickly before we go, we're about to wrap up here, but before we go, I just kind of wanted to touch up on, we talked a little bit about the personal toll that being an entrepreneur takes and launching a company, and how difficult that is, and the blood, sweat, and tears that each and every one of us puts into our company. Can you guys share a moment, perhaps that you thought that you were at your absolute lowest, that you were ready to throw in the towel, and what you did to overcome that? Possibly a tip that you can give to our audience, that is going to encounter that, because you guys will, trust me, and how to get through that?
Yeah, well, tips are a little hard because there's definitely a lot of low points, but a lot, for sure. And that's across all ventures, so I'm sure even Facebook had their own low moments. points early on. So the first, I guess, tip is to accept that there's going to be low points. If you're an entrepreneur, that's part of it. For me, the low points are when I feel it might not be working out, we might run out of money, the company might go bankrupt, and nobody will remember us in a year from now.
Which is like every month,
Yeah, like we feel that way.
every other week.
Depending, yes, over and over you feel that way, and then something good happens, you come up. And then on top of that, you benchmark yourself against people who you were working with the same company or went to the same school or whatever, and you're like, I left to become an entrepreneur, and they're continuing on this corporate track, and look at their life all, so cozy with a dog and children and whatever. Yeah, you go on Facebook, you look at social media, and like you say, why didn't I do that? Why did I choose this? There's this chance that I'm going to be very successful, and that chance I won't. I think these are the low points, and the first is, I guess, accepting it, and the second is really cherishing the excitement. At least I find this exciting. I would take this over many corporate jobs, which I've done in the past as well, one after another very quickly, and I said this is not for me at any time. And just being very aware of that the alternative is being in a potentially boring world for you for many, many years, just gets me excited again. Suddenly I'm like, okay, yeah, I have to make this right and make this successful because I like this, and that's me.
What about you, Don? What were some real low points and how you dug yourself out of there?
Wow. I mean, there are, like you said, there are a lot. Like, I probably had to actually cry out loud, like a devastating cry, like somebody died in probably 15 years until this entrepreneurship journey where I'm just like, ah! Like, some days you just feel like you just want to, scream. Like you said, just like you could be out of business. Literally, what helps me, one of the things that keep me going is referring back to people that are successful, that I know their stories. And you'll hear this saying, you're like, I failed 1,000 times before before. That is so true. Like, there's so many times where I'm like, I could really be out of business, there's no more flat out of fields. But then I think about when I read Delivering Happiness, and Tony Hsieh talked about, they literally packed up that whole...
Did Tony pay you?
No, it's a good book. He should pay me though. Vegas Tech Fund. Does anybody know anyone from Vegas Tech Fund? I would like some funding. That's just okay. But what I was saying, so he said they packed up all the boxes as apples. It was over. Like, closed the door. It's over. Business is out of business. And literally, an hour before they were leaving, they were in there drinking beer, just gonna shut it down. The investor called and said, "Here's a check." That has happened to me so many times where, I thought it was over for us, but I never gave up, and that's the key. I never gave up. I would have 99 cents in the bank, and I'm not giving up because I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and order $20,000 worth of inventory from China. I have 99 cents in the bank, but I'm going to order this $20,000 worth of inventory, and somebody better make something happen in the universe. And it happens, like literally over and over, and it's because I walk by faith, and I don't know how strong your spirituality is, whatever you believe in. But believe in something, because when you have nothing left, you better believe in something, or you're going to fall apart. You're literally going to fall apart. So for me, one of the hardest things, I'll give you an exact quick instance of when I was deciding should I sell my company or not. Last year, we're in a position where it's like I wasn't able to raise enough funding to have operating capital. We're selling so many shoes I can't keep up. Somebody came in and said, hey, I'll give you this much money for 80% of the business, and I'll pay you a salary. I haven't seen a salary in 12 years. I said, oh, a salary? And I'll still have, equity, and it sounded
It's
great.
kind of like the oasis in the desert,
like,
right?
oh, there it is. Everybody wants that. But, 6 months going into due diligence, still haven't closed. Sales are down because we're not focusing on sales, we're closing. It was very devastating, the lowest point ever that I ever went through. I just came out of it like 4 months ago because at the closing, it's ironic because I interviewed on CNBC with Marcus Lemonis, and he said, don't sell your company. That was something that he told me, and I'm like, I need to do this because I don't know how I'm going to operate. The deal sounds really good. And right before closing, I went to Startup City here. And everybody's talking, and I'm thinking, I'm about to sell my business, and I hear all these people talking, and I'm like, I'm going to just keep going. I'm not going to sell it. Marcus said don't sell it. Everybody here is doing this at Startup City. Miami's a great place to be for entrepreneur. I'm going to just keep trying. And someone said to me, like, don't give up. Like, just don't sell your business yet. Just keep going. And I, at closing, did not close. And that meant I still had back to 99 cents. And, because I was banking on for 6 months selling my company. So I was able in the past 5 months to bring my company back from, And that was painful because I know I have a great product, people want it, and to not have any more left or to be where I can't fulfill the needs for my customer, it was very devastating. I could have literally been out of business because of it. But like I said, I went ahead with the 99¢, ordered my $20,000, and then it just came. Because if you believe in yourself so strongly, like a burning desire, like you're not gonna quit, you're gonna do it no matter what, it'll just work out. But most people don't. Like one person out of 100 probably, you know, they'll just give up when it gets so low where you have no money and nothing else to do. But just never give up, like ever, no matter what. That's the key.
Sorry, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Dawn. There's definitely an element of faith and perseverance, and oftentimes when you're in your lowest point, something good will happen a couple weeks after. And I've actually heard that repeatedly from founders, and it's been the case for me. And I think one thing to be optimistic about is that you will face rejection, and it will become easier over time. So we still get rejected every now and then, but I don't take it as personally as I did before. I deal with it in a much more positive way. We get as much acceptance as we do rejection. You win some, you lose some, and you keep going. And I think that, in that regard, do get advice from people that have been through what you've been through. And, the one thing that they keep saying is, in 20 years, you'll look back and, you'll regret having worried so much. So enjoy the journey. It's really hard as entrepreneurs when it's super stressful and you have a million things on your mind to enjoy the journey, but it's important to sort of keep some perspective and understand that worrying doesn't really help, and you'll learn more than I come from a finance background. I was a bond trader before this, super corporate, and I have a lot of friends who followed that track, and if you compared what I've learned through this process, no sort of failure. I mean, at this point, the company may fail, but I don't feel like I will have failed. And I think that you have to come to terms with the fact that your company potentially failing does not mean that you failed. As cheesy as it is.
That's good.
Well, that's a hard lesson to kind of digest, because we all see that as a personal, as a reflection on our person, and it's not necessarily a reflection on your person, and you kind of have to work that personally, each and every one of you.
Yeah, and rejection is not even personal. I mean, you'll email someone, you'll pitch people on a partnership, and they'll say no, and it's not that they don't like you as a person. I mean, people have their own agendas, so I would say follow up 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and if they reject you, then move on. It's it happens to everybody. Like the Twitter founder said, 3 years of endless trying eventually makes you an overnight success. It's
true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. And actually, that reminds me, I don't know, many of you in the community probably know and are familiar with Stoneleigh Baptiste, but before Camilla and I decided to become a startup ourselves and open up our own business, Stoneleigh said, get ready. There are going to be many more valleys than there are going to be peaks, but when you hit those peaks, make sure you celebrate each and every one of them, because there are so few and far between. So take the time and actually enjoy the smallest pieces of success that come your way, because those are going to actually tide you through all of the hard times. So that wraps it up for our Refresh panel. Thank you so much to Sari, Dawn, thank you for so patiently sitting out there, and I highly recommend that you guys follow each and every one of the panelists on Twitter. Reach out to them, ask them for questions, ask them for advice. They're here to help. They want to help, and they want to help you make a success too. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks again for being on our panel. Thank you guys for coming. They'll probably hang around for a few minutes for some Q&A, but their Twitter handles are right on the top. Like Brian said, our next event's a demo day. We're gonna select from the companies who want to pitch, about 10 of them to go ahead and pitch. Brian did say there will be some prize money. He just didn't know how much. We're gonna just go ahead and just put in half of our ticket sales into the prize pool, so that way that if usually Refresh is based on is driven by the capacity of the space. So usually when we're in Miami-Dade, we have 300, 400 people, so it should be a decent prize pool, about $2,000. And what else? We have a conference coming up in November, which is called Refresh Go. And we'll give you more details soon. We'll put you on our mailing list. You can always unsubscribe if you don't want. Our website has all local tech events, jobs. So if you're looking to hire, you can post jobs on our website. We then send it out to our 8,500 members. And yeah, thank you for coming. Please tell your friends about our group.